we are not going to be discussing who's the best Spider-Man, who's the best Peter Parker. That's a topic for a whole nother video entirely. Hey everyone, Dark Spider David here, and as you can see, I have a little something here that is a little bit long lost, but yet most definitely not forgotten, especially by big Spider-Man fans, and also by very huge Steelbook fans. For those of you who have been following me from my original channels to this one, you'll know that I have a very strong affinity for Steelbooks. I don't know what it is, but there's something about Steelbooks that I just love collecting. I love looking at them. I like the expressionism done on the artwork, especially when it's very unique and collective, and I dig them so much that I have like a series of videos on a prior channel. But for this one, we're gonna this time focus around the Spider-Man Legacy Collection. And I believe that this is a Best Buy exclusive. However, last time I checked, which was not too long ago, it's sadly no longer in circulation. Not only this version, but even the 4K version that was released a little while later. Because as you can tell, this is the exclusive Blu-ray and digital version. So no 4K found here, but that's possibly for the better once we get to the actual artwork of the Steelbooks themselves. As you can see before you, it's encased in this glossy, translucent plastic casing. And at the top, you see right there, it says Blu-ray Digital. At the bottom, you have a banner that says Spider-Man Legacy Collection, 5 Spider-Man movies on Blu-ray, limited edition 7-disc set. And of course, we're talking about all of the live-action Spider-Man films, sans the MCU Tom Holland films. So we got Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3, The Amazing Spider-Man, and The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Now, we are not going to be discussing which one was better than the other, who's the best Spider-Man, who's the best Peter Parker. That's a topic for a whole nother video entirely. We're just here to take a look at the Spider-Man Legacy Collection, which also included, I believe it was even for the first time, the all-new Spider-Man 3 Editor's Cut. For those of you who don't know, as the description lists here, it's an alternate version that was supervised by film editor Bob Murawski, I think is his last name, unless I'm butchering it, but he was the editor of the 3 Raimi films, and he even went on to win an Academy Award for editing The Hurt Locker. So before you have Spider-Man kind of shooting some webs there in the front, that's one side of the Steelbook. On the right, or at least on the right of the case itself, you have a red spine with imagery of the Raimi Spider-Man right there on the top and the logo there in the middle. If you flip it to the adjacent spine, you then have a blue styling going on right there, but faded in the background you actually have the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. So I thought that was a pretty cool little duality thing going on right there. Flip it to the back and you have another translucent window pane showcasing the back of one of the other Steelbooks, along with a banner at the top reading once again that you're getting 5 movies on Blu-ray with over 40 hours of special features, most of which came from either the original Blu-ray releases of the Mark Webb, Andrew Garfield films, or even the DVD releases of the original Raimi trilogy from the early 2000s. Then towards the bottom you have a blue label that of course has all the technical specs and mumbo jumbo that you come to expect from packaging such as this. So let's go ahead and crack it open and we'll take a look at the 2 individual Steelbooks. And you'll see exactly what I'm talking about, because though I know that 4K is the superior version to own certain films, especially when we're talking about resolution and how it was originally filmed and shot, etc., there's something about these Steelbooks. I don't know what it is, but the actual design and decor of these Steelbooks versus the ones that you would then find in the Legacy Collection for 4K version is ultimately, in my humble opinion, better than that of the Legacy Collection. Because the Legacy Collection, I appreciate that they come with like nice little pop-up art, or as they call it, pop art. That's very graffiti-like. It looks like it's something that Mondo would make. But there's just something about the colors just splashing in and of themselves a little too much for my own personal liking, that I just gravitated towards this look a little better than the other set. Though they contain the 4K transfers, the Blu-rays here, they still look pretty good. Of course, it's Blu-ray resolution, 1080p, but at least those transfers, they're serviceable, they get the job done. And then of course, like I said, you get a bundle package deal where you get all the special features for all 5 films, and you even get the Spider-Man 2.1 cut of Spider-Man 2 and the editor's cut of Spider-Man 3. And if you couldn't already tell from what I was slipping away here, you also get the vouchers for the digital copies of each film. You even get a cute little like credit sheet, credits of all the films right there. I thought that was pretty pretty cool. Pretty cool. We'll see you soon. So here you have the covers for the Steelbooks. Obviously, they show exactly which films are waiting for you inside. We got Raimi and we got Webb/Andrew Garfield. And it's funny because say what you want about the films themselves, regardless of which camp you fall on, look at these covers. They're pretty sweet. Obviously, they're color-coded. The Raimi trilogy had a tendency to lean more towards red, whereas the Andrew Garfield was more so blue. And then you have even the specific spider symbols there in the back with a uniformal look of that silver and gray background. You even got some reflective patterning. During some close-ups here, you're going to be able to tell that the actual paint used on the color portions of these Steelbooks has a different shade or different material made out of the background. So they kind of pop out and stand out a little bit more. It's actually high quality stuff. And then of course you have some really cool imagery of our Spideys right there in the front, with Raimi's shooting Webb and then Andrew Garfield's swinging. So overall, pretty nice look there on the front of each Steelbook. If we flip them towards the back, they have a tendency to keep things kind of minimalistic by simply just showing the emblems at an askew angle. So as you can see, we got the Raimi one right there that to me I don't know if it's just me, but this logo right here actually looks more like the symbiote logo from Spider-Man 3 as opposed to the prior two films, only with the red paint going on there in the center, as opposed to the traditional Andrew Garfield Spider-Man emblem right there in the blue. Again, keeping things minimalistic, but again, there's that sense of uniformity that I really love. What I don't necessarily love is that it's a personal quirk of mine, not just for these Steelbooks specifically, but honestly all Steelbooks overall. Don't give me any bear spines. I personally don't like bear spines on Steelbooks. I mean, you go through all the trouble of designing the front and the back, but when you go and do this to the spine where you literally have nothing, no logo, no lettering, no design, nothing. It's literally nothing but just the same color of gray. It's a very wasted opportunity in my book. Now, what happens when you do in fact open one of these Steelbooks? So let's go ahead and take a look at the Raimi one. And as they get opened, you'll then see the inside here, which is also keeping in line with the uniformity of the two Steelbooks, while at the same time presenting another little quirk or nitpick that I have for some of these Steelbooks right here. So as you can see, we have the discs right here. You're going to have arguably more with the Raimi one than you're going to have with the Mark Webb, Andrew Garfield one, since you do have less film. However, we have a slight little issue. As we remove the discs, you will notice that we can only immediately see two. However, there are more than just that. As we remove one of the top discs, like this one right here, which is the bonus disc that houses the special features as well as the editor's cut of Spider-Man 3, you will then notice that underneath is the other Blu-ray for the core Spider-Man 3 film. So they're actually stacked on top of each other along this spindle here. And I personally get a little antsy when I see that, because should this have been handled a little more in more poorer hands, whether it be by the collector like myself or the person who might have delivered it or handled it in the store via merchandising, you run the risk of scratching your discs because they're one on top of the other. So one will probably survive a little longer, which is going to be the bottom one, because then it's kept from the back right there via the spindle. But then the one that's stacked on top of it, you risk of the two kind of scratching and murking amongst each other or rubbing up against each other, and therefore causing scratches, and then you're not going to be able to play the discs adequately. So that's one little thing to take notice of. So if you do end up coming across this set, just know that ahead of time. And as I remove the Spider-Man disc, you'll notice I have the Spider-Man 2 and 2.1 disc right behind that, with that artwork right there. And waiting in the background is, of course, the chest area of Raimi's Spider-Man with the reflective coloring. Pretty cool. Again, minimalistic, but keeps the uniformity intact. So let's go ahead and put that away momentarily and take a look at the Andrew Garfield one, which is principally gonna be about the same sort of dealio going on right there. And my complaint still kind of carries over, where you do have some discs stacking on top of each other. Now, the one safe here is the Spider-Man, or I should say probably the bonus disc is the one that saves itself here, because there's nothing else on this left portion of the Steelbook itself aside from the disc for the first film. And putting that off to the side, you do have the bonus disc over here, which runs the risk of getting scratched, because waiting underneath the bonus disc with the special features is the disc for Amazing Spider-Man 2, which arguably should probably be the one on top, considering that this could potentially become a coaster in the future. Anyways, that aside, you do have the inwards part there, the inner artwork of the Andrew Garfield Steelbook, and keeping in line with the Raimi one over here, it's basically not so much the chest area, but rather the back of the costume for Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. And it makes sense because if you go with the front of the Raimi one, it's ideally the same, only with the slight little aesthetical differences of the symbol itself and the design choices. So it's kind of cool that color-wise they went with the more contrasting choice by choosing the back symbol that he's got going on right here. So you have the red on the blue instead of the black on the red. So I thought that was actually a pretty creative choice. Definitely something that I would have gone with, so that's pretty cool right there. And here's the thing, say what you want about Andrew Garfield, the symbol itself is actually pretty dope. The costume, the actual design for the costume of Amazing Spider-Man, at least for Amazing Spider-Man 2, is in my opinion one of the better ones. Not so much 1, but again, purely subjective, and everybody's got their own take and their own pick, so we're gonna leave it at that. And with that, you pretty much have the Legacy Collection on Blu-ray. Again, I know that it's very, very tough to come across this now. I don't know if Best Buy has any plans to restock them in the future. I don't know if they're going to go with a reissue or a brand new design. I don't know. Again, not even the 4K version is up on their website. You have to go to the likes of Amazon or eBay to find scalpers pricing them at, quite frankly, like $300-400, and that's ultimately unacceptable for things like this. I understand that they're practically a collector's item at this point, but you definitely need to take that into consideration and at least watch videos like this to know exactly what you're getting into when it comes to turning to those scalpers. So if you truly want them, out of my personal preference, it's actually the Blu-ray versions with this sense of uniformity between the two Steelbooks that I personally really like over the more poppy cover art on the 4K edition. Because even though, again, it would look cool for a poster, not necessarily for a Steelbook. Right? It's not always the similar thing in different cases. So in this particular instance, I would say the Blu-ray Legacy Edition is actually one of the finest showcases, not only amongst my Spider-Man home media collection, but even my Steelbook collections overall. Thank you guys for making it to the very end. If you guys want to, let me know in the comments, do you guys want to see a Steelbook collection video where I tackle every Spider-Man Steelbook that I have? Because outside of these two, I have other Steelbooks, not only for some of the Tom Holland films, but even a spin-off one and even a video game related one. And I want to know what you guys think, if I should make a video centered specifically on just that whole ensemble of Steelbooks on our favorite web slinger. Let me know in the comments. Make sure to either hit the thumbs up or hit the thumbs down. And of course, check out this other video showing up on the screen right now to check out more Spidey goodness on the channel. And as always, stay humble.